It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast as we cover the latest property news every morning on iHeartRadio, Spotify and Apple, and of course wherever you get your podcast from. And it's the middle of our working week, Wednesday, November the 8th. And man, oh man, the Christmas advertising has seemed to have shifted into a new gear since Monday. And for my money, the worst part of the lead up to Christmas is the advertising messages being pushed. I just become totally tone deaf and switch off anything that is relating to advertising, especially Christmas advertising. Although I have to say, my sister is the complete opposite. She'll listen to advertising. I said, are you crazy? Why are you listening to that? She says, oh, well, there's some bargains. I listen for the bargains. So anyway, that is the worst part, isn't it, about Christmas? Now, let's shift gears into the median property prices. Now, they have dropped in some of Australia's most prestigious neighbourhoods over the past year, including blue chip areas like Killara on Sydney's Upper North Shore. Prices have fallen by as much as 16.7%. That is according to Domain, who say that the drop may be due to a lack of high-end homes entering the market rather than an actual softening of the market, which is interesting. And similarly, Melbourne's Canterbury has seen a 16.9% decrease in the median price, though the market feels resilient, apparently with stronger prices for individual properties. And Domain is reporting that Sydney is most affected. Killara and Rose Bay has also experienced a drop of 14.5%, followed by Vaucluse. That is down 11%, and Willara down by 10.4%. So you can see what I'm talking about when it comes to some of this blue chip property. So let's discuss this a little bit more and go to David Banks, who joins us from Jellis Craig Canterbury there in Melbourne. And a very good morning to you, David. Welcome to the Real Estate Breakfast.
Good morning, Craig, and thank you for the warm introduction.
Are you like me? Do you sort of go tone deaf when it comes to these advertising messages with Christmas?
It feels like they start earlier every year. And what we'll know for Boxing Day is that there'll be hot cross buns. And that's just the reality these days, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, tell us exactly where you are there in Canterbury. I think you're in a suburb there which some people might not have heard of.
Well, Canterbury is one of the most affluent suburbs in Melbourne. It makes a part of the city of Boroondara. And the city of Boroondara also consists of elite suburbs like Hawthorn, Kew, Balwyn, Surrey Hills, Camberwell. They are very sought-after suburbs for schools, parks, public transport and local shopping.
Just on the schools, Kew, did you say that has the most amount of private schools in a suburb?
It's got the highest density of private schools in the Southern Hemisphere. What we know about Boroondara is a lot of our market is driven by education. Families wanting to move into the area to educate their children at elite schools. And then once they have finished their education and the children have moved out and they're downsizing, those downsizers then might move in a city into the Richmond or Clifton Hills of this world, or downsize into an apartment and have that as a Melbourne bolt hold, whilst they're spending more of their time retired down in the peninsula.
All right then, so that is David there in Canterbury. We'll come back to him in just a moment. We'll talk more about these blue chip areas around the country next.
Gain insights with exclusive conversations from real estate professionals about buying, selling and investing across Australia.
So the big news yesterday was the RBA increasing the cash rate 25 basis points, more people being asked to find more money for their mortgages, as Anthony Landau told us yesterday afternoon.
The RBA has increased the cash rate by 25 basis points, not totally unexpected. takes the cash rate to 4.35%. That's the 13th increase since the first increase back in May 2022. As I said, not totally unexpected. I think some people were hoping they'd hold out a little bit longer, but it's gone up.
So that was Anthony letting us know that bad piece of information yesterday with that increase from the RBA. Of course, the attention now is next month. What is likely to happen in December? Hey, I've got to say a very good morning to Lucy in Footscray in Melbourne, turning 41 today, and you are a listener. Great to have you on board, and thank you so much for your email. Tara Reid, the actor, is also celebrating turning 47, and Ozzy Osbourne's son Jack is turning 37.
It's the main centre forecast.
And around the country, let's have a look at the weather words. And in Sydney, looking pretty steady, nice and sunny with 27. Melbourne expecting showers with a possible storm today with 29. Melbourne should be mainly fine, some cloudy pieces with 25. And blue skies in Perth, sunshine and 30.
Ready to step up your property knowledge? Access powerful insights with us.
And we are back on your Real Estate Wednesday. David Banks is back with us from Jellis Craig in Canterbury. We're talking about the median property prices dropping in some of Australia's most prestigious blue chip suburbs. Many homeowners are hesitant to sell as they struggle to find suitable homes to move into, causing a little bit of a stalemate in the marketplace. And just in terms of talking about Melbourne, Toorak is down also 5.3%, Brighton down to 3.4%. Also in Perth, the suburb of Dalkeith, that has experienced a 9% price drop due to ageing homes that require rebuilding. So, David, is this sort of any surprise, do you think, for the marketplace where we stand today in terms of sort of going backwards in these elite suburbs?
Look, I think it is a little bit of a surprise, particularly when we do isolate one particular suburb out of a particular area. I think it's not necessarily indicative of what the bigger picture is within the market. We're still seeing not enough quality homes come to market. The stock levels are still low. I think every estate agent around the country would probably tell you that. But also what we can see from a year-on-year basis is a shift in the type of properties that come to market with those price points that can obviously affect then the median price across a particular suburb. But I think also when we look at Canterbury and we look at the bigger picture of that being for us, the city of Boroondara, we can see other suburbs within Boroondara outperforming where they were a year ago. Land prices in Baldwin have risen by 10 to 15%, for example. That borders on to the suburb of Canterbury. So those prices are still very strong, we're seeing in Canterbury. Overall, we're still seeing a lot of buyers coming to our open for inspections. Our average number of bidders is higher today than what it was 12 months ago. And I think that consumers today have more confidence. They have more confidence now that interest rates appear to have settled. It feels like inflation has peaked and is coming back. And whilst there might be one or two more interest rate changes to occur in the next 6 months, I don't see that as being likely to affect our market. So it should still give vendors confidence to come to market to achieve very strong prices.
Now, I just want to pick up on something that you just mentioned at the beginning there. You were saying that it depends on the quality of the property that is affecting the median house price. That might have gone over a few people's heads. So I just want you to drill down on that and just explain that to our audience a little bit further.
Certainly. So what we are seeing across the market is properties that are well presented, well renovated, recently renovated in the last 5 to 10 years, are outperforming the market. And I think when buyers are not certain around doing a renovation or doing an extension and what that might cost in today's market compared to pre-COVID, the question the buyers will have is, if it needs a new kitchen or if it needs a renovation, if it needs that extension, how much will it cost? How long will it take? And who am I going to get to do it for me? and I hope they don't go bankrupt while they're doing it. And if they can remove and eliminate those questions from a buyer's mind because you've got a really well presented, beautifully renovated home, well then the path of least resistance for a buyer is to buy that home that's well presented and well renovated.
Yeah, I think that's a really fundamental thing that's been going on probably for all of this year because of the cost of building. It's just a risk, which is really what you are saying. So in terms of the top end of the market, that $5 to $10 million space, it's still going pretty well.
It's still performing well. And we're still finding multiple buyers bidding on those properties and making offers on those properties, whether that be on market or whether that be off market. We did have an off market sale about 6 weeks ago now, and that was on the market with a price of 4.7 that was offered by a purchaser. There was a challenger. We held a private auction in the property on a Sunday afternoon and took it to a sale price of 4.95 million. So when we're seeing those sorts of off-market private auctions occurring, we are confident that the market has very good buyer depth, and that, as I said earlier, 1 or 2 interest rate changes aren't going to affect that end of the market because they're high net wealth individuals.
That's interesting that it's an off-market sale. You have 2 people interested in the property and then you hold a private auction. Now, I haven't heard of this happening. How often does this happen where you are?
Well, it happens even with our expressions of interest campaigns. It can occur where we've got, again, 3 or 4 parties who hold interest in a property at the same price and the vendor is willing to sell the property for that price. And I think one of the reasons our company does that as a policy is to maintain transparency through the process so that everyone gets a fair chance of buying the property, securing the property, but equally they can see who their competition is. And whether that be themselves bidding or through the process of an advocate, I think it's important to make sure that all parties are looked after, because whilst what we know is that every buyer one day becomes a seller, and we want them to know that they've been fairly treated and looked after.
Yeah, all right. Well, yeah, that's so fascinating. We'll have to find out a little bit more about that on another podcast. Hey, David, thanks for sort of breaking your area down, telling us that $5 to $10 million top end of the market is still performing pretty well. Q, which has the private schools, a lot of them, very, very popular. And thanks for coming on this morning onto the Real Estate Podcast. I'll let you get back out there in Canterbury and continue the selling before Christmas.
Thank you, Craig, and looking ahead to listing more homes for 2024 already.
Don't navigate the real estate market alone. Let us help guide you in the world of real estate every day. Make better informed decisions with the latest news and insights.
Your Crumman areas and your Tugun areas are a little bit more restricted around the development, but there has been a lot of sites sold. There's been a lot of DAs approved, a lot of cranes in the sky, and it looks like we're going to have a huge supply of units over the next kind of 12, 18 months to 2 years.
Brisbane is benefiting from significant interstate migration. This year, approximately 30,000 people have moved from interstate into Queensland.
Our rate of growth is not only the highest in the country, it's still trending up. Certainly heating up over here, and it's been hot for a couple of years, to be honest, and there's no real end in sight in terms of the supply and demand dynamic.
Many of the top leaders start as civil engineers or architects, for example. There are people who come in from investment banking or more kind of finance backgrounds that do incredibly well. So it can be fairly broad.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.